Welcome back, everybody. We got week 12 of Double D's. I'm Daryl.
And I'm Dave.
And we're here with our Thanksgiving special for you. Now, last week, historic week on kickers. They changed the distance on extra points. 12 missed extra points last Sunday, which was more than every kicker combined in the NFL in 2014. They only missed 10 of 251, or of 251 field goals. 33 yards or less all year, but they're missing these extra points. Now, you're missing 10 out of 251 field goals of that distance or shorter, but you're missing 12 on one day.
Yeah, that was a record-setting day, and I believe that with the amount of field goals that have been taken just this year, that there was only one missed field goal this season from that exact range from where they take the field goal, the extra point kicks. I think this is really going to influence coaches to develop and evolve more two-point plays, possibly even draft different players to use for two-point plays. I mean, I like the extra point personally. I grew up with it. It's embedded in my culture of football, but I don't mind seeing the excitement of two-point conversions.
I don't either. The Steelers don't either. Chad Johnson had come out and said, I'm available and enjoy pressure situations for kicking, and he actually kicked an extra point for him back in, I think, 2009. Lots of injuries this week. Quarterbacks, we got Andrew Luck out with a concussion. Tolzien's going to be starting. That really hurts the value of T.Y. Moncrief. Raises the value of Gore if they can keep it close. Cutler out with a shoulder injury.
The Bears are a dead cause.
They're done.
Cutler. And hey, sorry to stop you in the middle of this.
No, you're good.
Do you think this is a serious injury or more one of Cutler's, hey, I don't have a team, I'm not going to go out there and put myself at risk kind of moves that we've seen him do before?
I don't want to blame him for it because he's a free agent coming up, and you really want to go out looking like shit because your team's garbage? I mean, Zach Miller's out for the year also with foot surgery.
I dog him a little bit because as a GM, if he was looking to leave the Chicago Bears or the Bears were looking to move him, do I want that on my team?
No, you don't. You don't want that attitude. The Bengals, they got some big issues. AJ Green, hamstring tear, and I know it's slight. Gio's done. And AJ Green, while he kind of always has come back weird from injuries, they linger. With the Bengals being out of the playoff situation, if you're an AJ Green owner, you can get something decent for him right now, and you're looking at playoffs, unless it's a keeper league. If you're looking at playoffs, you're fighting for a spot. I think you need to move him if you can. I don't see them bringing him back quickly. They're out of the playoff situation.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to move A.J. Green if you're not in a keeper. Not a lot of people are going to take a risk on him, hoping that he's back and healthy for the playoffs. A player that has an injury problem that he just came back from that I would like to see you make a move on. I have said this before. Sammy Watkins is back and cleared 110% this week. If you do have AJ in a keeper league, as I did move him in a big combo deal that brought David Johnson back. I would highly suggest doing that. It is very unfortunate, but that is the game of fantasy football and real life football.
No doubt. LaShawn McCoy, he had thumb surgery, but he's still supposed to play. Prosise, well, he's done.
I would look at Mike Gillislee if you have LaShawn McCoy as a backup. He did hurt his hamstring in practice today, and do note that it is Friday right now. Podcast, when you listen to it, will more than likely be Saturday. We will have it uploaded tonight, but I would looking to handcuff LaShawn McCoy. I don't think they're trying to bring him back too quick from something, I don't know. I don't think it's as severe as the leg and knee injuries that he's used to. Right. But it's definitely something that affects the ball carrying ability and catching ability coming back. It's just something to keep up to date with.
Catching ability, it's going to affect that. And, you're not going to be able to switch hands as easily. It's going to cause handoff issues, fumbling issues. Prosise is done. Sproles, last I heard he's supposed to play. Matthews is out with the sprain, but Sproles has a fractured rib.
Is Matthews out for sure?
Last I saw, he's supposed to be out, but they have him listed as questionable.
Yeah, I think they're both going to play, but they're both going to be iffy plays. It's something to definitely stay up to date on. We'll post it up on our page. Be looking for that on Sunday.
And Bortles, well, he's got a shoulder injury and he's playing. Hey, maybe the injury will make him a little better. I mean, it can't really hurt him. I mean, you're looking at free agent pickups. Smallwood's kind of a flyer. You don't know what that backfield situation is going to be like in Philadelphia. Another guy you're high on, Boyd. I like him over LaFell. Somebody's got to pick up the slack.
Absolutely. Another wide receiver that I'm big on, I said it to you before we started recording. I really like Marquise Lee. I had him ranked on my paper last week. I can't take credit for it because I did not post him up on our wall as my top 30, but he is someone to definitely keep an eye on. I'll go over his numbers as well as Allen Robinson's from last week, and it's definitely looking like this is someone that you want on your team pushing the fantasy playoff run.
You know, the Bears receivers, and Alshon is out. You want to stay away from them with no Cutler. I mean, Matt Barkley, I didn't even know he was in the NFL until the Packer game. Starks, he's sitting there. Eventually, I think Christine Michaels takes touches from him, but you got a week or two left of use on him, I believe.
I mean, you're talking about free agent ads, too. I mean, anyone that's playing the Chicago Bears for the rest of the season isn't a bad ad, especially Tennessee this week.
I agree. Kaepernick, if you're looking for a quarterback for, short-term usage. The Titans D this week, because they're playing the Bears. And, the Saints D, they kind of had a little resurgence as of late. And they're playing Jared Goff and Todd Gurley, and everybody's been shutting them down.
My number one ad for defense this week would be the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yes.
They definitely resurged themselves last week. I do know it was against the Cleveland Browns, but they are going up against Scott Tolzien in Indianapolis. I do like Blitzburg this week as the number one defensive ad, in my opinion.
Now, we got some games on Thanksgiving, 3 of them. All 6 teams are at 500 or better, and 4 are either in or tied for first place in their division. We got Minnesota-Detroit, tied for first. Detroit took the last one in overtime on Golden Tate, taking one. This is the first of 2 straight Thursday night games for Minnesota. Now, Minnesota, they've been winning with their defense. 6 of their 22 touchdowns scored on the whole year have been by their defense. They're only averaging 16 points a game through their offense. Bradford had a really good game for him against Detroit. I know he's the guy that you like. I mean, you can't not like Sam Bradford. Xavier Rhodes seems to be turning into their offensive weapon that they need for some reason. Neither team has been able to run the ball consistently. They're 32nd and 30th. And Detroit's defense, they're allowing league worst 73% completion percentage. They have a tendency to play like ass for 3 quarters, then mount the improbable comeback, which I kind of see happening here. I think they fall short this time. I think Minnesota gets revenge. I'm taking Minnesota 20, Detroit 17. Diggs is a little banged up. I see Rudolph having a good game. Detroit struggles guarding tight ends. They've given up 9 touchdowns to tight ends on the year. I see Stafford. They start out slow and they struggle. Minnesota, they're going to squeak one by.
Yeah, I'm not far off from you in this game. I also have Minnesota winning this game. I've said it for the last couple weeks. Someone I don't hate is Sam Bradford. Last week he was 20 for 28, 169 yards and a touchdown. Very protective of the ball. I even said it last week. He might not even get 200 yards throwing. That was seen. Adam Thielen, I've been talking this wide receiver up for the last couple weeks. 5 receptions, 65 yards, and a TD. Cordell Patterson had a huge, I believe it was a kick return for a touchdown. Yep. I don't have the exact yardage, but it was a very big play, spark for their offense. If Diggs is out there fully healthy, expect him to have a big week. I really like the Minnesota offense this week. Asiata is my favorite running back on the team because he gets the touchdowns. You can't hate McKinnon. He had 16 touches. I mean, that's not far off from a lot of your RB1s there. The score, though, I do have Minnesota 26, Detroit 24.
Pretty close. 2 and 3 point games. We got Washington and Dallas. Now, last week, Cousins tweeted that he loved hearing the fan chant after the Packer game. We want Dallas. Well, guess what? They got him. I don't think they really want Dallas. Not in Dallas. You know I love me some Dak. He's starting to emerge as a QB. Dez, he's starting to find that chemistry with him a little bit. Will that hold true? I don't know. I tend to think it will. Washington's got the second-ranked offense, but they're giving up. They're 31st in rushing yards per attempt, which isn't good going against Zeke. He's just been gashing defenses. Washington's allowing over 20 points a game for fantasy to quarterbacks. I don't see Washington, as well as they're playing and as many points as they're putting up, being able to do it. They can't stop the run consistently. Zeke is Zeke. He does what he wants. I have Dallas 31, Washington 27. I think Reed and Cousins will have a game. Kelly, he'll get his. He won't get the 3 touchdowns he had last week. Zeke, Dak, Dez, Witten, all strong starts this week.
Yeah, I have this game favoring Dallas. I like Dak Prescott, what he's been able to do. He's involving Dez Bryant a lot more. I know that is definitely making fantasy owners happy there. I actually got rid of Dez this week when his value was at his highest before our trade deadline. Cousins had a monster week last week. He's emerging as one of the best system quarterbacks that we've seen today.
Yes.
I do believe you put him on another team and he would fall apart. The Redskins are completely system-fied, which is good. They're built for this team. They've reverted their draft strategies. Rob Kelly, 24 rushes, 137 yards, and 3 touchdowns. They like working this guy. I'm glad Matt Jones ended up getting hurt. I know you don't want to hear that because who do we want to see get hurt? But this, when it comes down to winning fantasy championships, I heard a lot of analysts say Devontae Booker's the guy that you're going to get to be the man that's going to ride you to the championship. I believe Rob Kelly can be that man. Jordan Reed definitely has a better week this week. He finds the end zone. Again, I mean, you touched on everything here. Cole Beasley, very good wide receiver. You know, he's got good value each and every week with Dak moving the ball. I got Dallas 28, Washington 21.
Nice. Pittsburgh, Indy to round out our Thanksgiving games. They're both 5-5. And, Berger struggles on the road. I don't see him struggling as much in this game. Berger had also said earlier he had no doubt in his mind that Luck would play. Well, he's wrong. Luck's been ruled out. Pittsburgh's giving up the third most fantasy points to running backs. And I think Gore's going to have a really good game. The problem is I think Pittsburgh's going to pull far enough away that they're going to have to get away from the run. Tolzien's not going to do it. We were talking earlier, T.Y. Hilton, Moncrief, they're going to lose value. Colts are giving up over almost 285 yards passing a game, only 3 interceptions on the year. It's not going to be enough for this offense. Le'Veon, will he get his 200 yards from scrimmage like last week? No, but I think he'll be close. I think Pittsburgh's going to do what they want. Pittsburgh 34, Indianapolis 17.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed watching that Cleveland game, even though Big Ben couldn't find the end zone. Watching Le'Veon Bell do what he wanted was definitely comforting coming from a Steelers fan. I really like Frank Gore this week. If you're deep enough, you have the wide receiver play, feel free to bench Dante Moncrief. I get if you physically cannot bench T.Y. Hilton, as he is a wide receiver 1 to most people in every league. If he's your 2, kudos. Congrats for having that deep of a roster. I myself am benching Dante Moncrief this week. I'm going to roll out Sammy Watkins, who could be very limited, and like my odds better with Tyrod Taylor throwing him the ball even 5 times to Scott Tolzien having to find Dante Moncrief. With that being said, I do see Le'Veon Bell getting over 150 all-purpose yards again, whether it be on the ground or receiving. I preach every week that I want to see him run the ball at least 25 times with 30 total touches. Last week, he rushed the ball 28 times for 146 yards and caught the ball 8 more times for 55 yards. That's 36 total touches, and I was very, very pleased with that. I don't have this game as high scoring because I think that the Colts D can lock down on the red zone opportunities a couple times. The Steelers have been having problems converting in the red zone. Yep. I have this score Pittsburgh 24, Indianapolis 16.
Nice.
Watch out for Eli Rogers. I think he can be the best wide receiver play here over Antonio Brown. We both like Vontae Davis as a defender.
Yep.
Is he going to be there healthy this week?
I don't know. I guess he was seen in a walking boot earlier this week.
Okay.
Whether or not he's healthy by then, I mean, it's a Thursday night game. If he plays, is he going to be effective? I don't know. I think they're going to try and scheme out AB.
Agreed.
And I agree with you on Eli Rogers.
Before we get too far into the podcast, I got a little food for thought for you.
Uh-oh.
A little question, a little Q&A for you.
No.
There were 2 QBs that were the leading rushers for their respected teams last week. Can you name those 2 quarterbacks?
Kaepernick.
And?
Wow. That's a tough one. I don't even know, Dave.
I'll give you a hint. They played the Steelers.
Oh. Who is their QB?
Don't worry, buddy. It's a tough one because they had two QBs play
That's
last
what I'm
week. Cody
saying.
Kessler
Who is
went
their
down.
QB? I don't know
Josh
which one it
McCown
was. That would have led it
the leading
rushing.
rusher. Do you know how? You want to take a gander at how many yards that he led the team with in rushing, bud?
I bet you it was less than 25.
Oh, man,
McCown
go
don't
lower.
run.
Go
5?
lower.
6?
We're talking he had 11 rushing yards. Isaiah Crowell had 10 and Duke Johnson Jr. had 10. The other leading quarterback in the rushing game was Mr. Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Yes, he did it with his legs and not his arm. We're surprised.
Gotta love
Those were
them.
tough ones. It was a tough one.
They were, because it's like, and then you throw the Browns on me, and it's like, wow.
Which one? That's why it was
Which one?
tricky.
I don't know. You know, Kessler's more of a running quarterback than McCown, but I guess.
Definitely. It was a tough one. I figured we'd get into it now.
Wow. Arizona, Atlanta. We got Arizona sitting at 4-5 in the tie. Going into Atlanta. Atlanta hasn't kept anyone under 31 points at home. I think they do it this week. Palmer, he got knocked down 15 times out of 42 dropbacks last week. He's definitely showing his age. Fitz is still trying to ball out. But Palmer, he's got to be done after this year. He had to go into a backup role. David Johnson, he might get his 200 yards from scrimmage because that's all they have. I know Fitz is still a stud, but when you can't get him the ball, you can't get him the ball. Matt Ryan and Julio, they're going to ball out. Devonta's got his. I got Atlanta 35, Arizona 24. Even with Tyrann Mathieu supposedly being back, the Honey Badgers not going to be enough to make the difference against this offense.
No, we're talking about Palmer here. 20 for 38, 198 yards, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions, 1 rush, 11 yards. David Johnson, the workhorse for this team, 103 yards, a touchdown. He had 7 receptions for 57 yards and a touchdown. Like I stated earlier in the podcast, I've been trying to trade for this guy since preseason. I've given Henry multiple shout-outs. He finally gave this guy up. You touched on the Arizona receiving game, or even the lack thereof offense from anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
The second leading receiver for them last week statistically was Jermaine Gresham, 2 receptions for 33 yards and a touchdown. I mean, you can't sustain an offense and stay in the win column, maintain in a divisional race with your second leading receiver being Jermaine Gresham. I mean, not taking anything away from this guy, but when you have Floyd, Brown, J.J. Nelson, I mean, you have weapons there, and Palmer can't find them. It's sickening. I have this game a little lower scoring than I think it could be. I could see Atlanta easily getting into the 30s, but I have Atlanta 24, Arizona 17.
Nice. And then we got Jacksonville and the Buffalo Rex Ryans. Jacksonville hasn't won in over a month. Buffalo's averaging over 33 points a game at home. Number 1 rushing attack in the league. They won 4 of their last 6 at home. Sammy Watkins is back. I don't think he's going to be a good play yet. I think if he is back, you know what? Jacksonville does have some good players. One of them is Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
Bortles, hurt or not, he's going to succumb to the power of the Buffalo Ryans. Buffalo 27, Jacksonville 10. Shady, if he plays, it's looking like he's going to. Should have a pretty good game against this defense. Chris Ivory, he got nowhere to run for Jacksonville. They just don't have the firepower to do it.
I get it, and I've dogged Ivory for the last couple weeks, and I look at his numbers last week. Even if he's not getting a boatload of yards, he's getting the carries. He had 17 rushes for 39 yards, 6 receptions and 75 yards, and he had 1 fumble lost. I said earlier that I would touch on the wide receiver situation here. AR-15, 3 receptions, 18 yards, and a touchdown. It's getting dirty out there. I don't know if he's on bad terms with Bortles or Bortles is on bad terms with his Rogaine. Because if you haven't seen the meme, he has quite the bald spot going on from all the stress that he's accumulating in Jacksonville. Marquise Lee, 4 receptions, 52 yards and a touchdown. He's slowly becoming the better Allen Hurns there. I know you're not going to put him above Allen Robinson. Tyrod Taylor, 19 for 27, 166 yards, no touchdowns. It was a very awkward game for him. He had 1 interception, 9 rushes, and 39 yards. Look for him to turn that around simply because Sammy Watkins will be on the field. When you have Sammy and Shady on the field at all times, you're going to look at a very dangerous team in Buffalo. I'm glad I jumped back on the Rex Ryan bandwagon weeks and weeks ago, around 4 or 5 after dogging them. This is a very close game. Both teams can score, but I think Buffalo's D prevails here. I have Buffalo 20, Jacksonville 16.
And then we have a game that, well, there's a couple of them this week. It's not much of a game. We got Tennessee and Chicago. Mariota, he's been cruising with this offense. The smash mouth running, play action off of it. DeMarco finally getting used the way he should be. Philly wasn't using him right. Delaney Walker's going to have a good game. Rashard Matthews, he's emerging as a really good young wide receiver. The Bears, what can you say about him? Cutler, Zach, Alshon, all done. You got Matt Barkley starting. He might be the worst starting quarterback that takes the field in 2016. His only appearance, 6 for 15 with 2 picks. Jordan Howard, well, he's their only offense. I think Tennessee's going to be able to bottle them up because they have nobody else to worry about. Tennessee 38, Chicago 13 in a game that's not even as close as what the score says.
Yeah, I really enjoy Marcus Mariota. One of the better questions that I've seen from another fantasy site, Fandeans. Check them out. They're very good. They're fun. They're interactive. They asked, who would you rather have in a keeper league if you were going to keep a quarterback? Would you keep Jameis Winston or would you keep Marcus Mariota? And I thought to myself, and it was tough. And I said Marcus Mariota. I don't know if it's what's built around him, but I look at the receiving staff that he has. Jameis Winston has a Mike Evans to just throw it out to, go get it, right? Marcus Mariota's doing it with names like Rashard Matthews, 9 receptions for 122 yards. That's right, Kayla. Keep plugging him in. This guy is a stud. I'm glad you went and picked him up. If you're not playing him, shame on you. Tajay Sharp, the rookie, 4 receptions, 68 yards, and a touchdown. Kendall Wright, 4 receptions and 52 yards. These are not household names. And these guys are going out there and doing it week in and week out. I think the DeMarco Murray ad for them was huge. He was a little shaky last year, and this year he's really emerged. I mean, we're looking at 21 rushing attempts, 70 yards, 3 receptions, 9 yards, and a TD. This game isn't going to be close. I agree with you. For some reason, I'm giving Chicago 14 points. I don't know where it comes from, who they're paying. Tennessee 35, Chicago 14.
Pretty close again. And then, well, we got the Giants in Cleveland. Giants, they're 7-3. I don't know how they're 7-3. They haven't won by more than 6 all year. They kind of play ugly. They start really slow on offense, but they're winning, which is what matters. Well, in Cleveland, we're 0-11. Cleveland's 0-11. Here's a good one for you football fans. Here's a fun drinking game. Sit down, get your shots lined up. Name all 26 quarterbacks that the Browns have started since 1999. Every time you can't name one or duplicate, take a shot. Guess what? Most people aren't going to finish this game. That's how bad it is. In fact, they've had 22 quarterbacks start since Eli was drafted, just to put it into perspective a little bit. Their last one was on December 13th, 2015. They've been giving up 24 more points per game this whole year. And I know the Giants have been a little inconsistent on offense, and ODB, he's been inconsistent as well. I think a lot of that comes down to Eli. He seems to play down to his competition. That being said, Cleveland doesn't have it. I don't think they're going to win a game all year. Their offense, I think they'll move the ball a little bit more with McCown. Still not enough. Giants 34, Cleveland 21. Rashard Matthews, they're starting to use him a little bit. You know, Beckham, I don't think he's going to have a great game. I think Sterling Shepard's got to own in this one.
Yeah, Sterling Shepard's been very consistent over the last couple weeks. Last week, 5 receptions, 50 yards, and a touchdown. Even Victor Cruz dabbled in with 1 catch, but it was for 48 yards. We're looking at Odell Beckham Jr. that had 5 receptions and only 46 yards. It's a little rough. I did see that the Giants leaned on the running game a little more.
Yep.
Jennings had 21 rushes for 85 yards, 5 receptions for 44 yards and a touchdown. The one thing that I like to see, I like him as a stash play still. It takes 1 fumble for Jennings to go to the bench. Paul Perkins, 4 rushes, 16 yards, 2 receptions, 19 yards. Not a bad person to have on your bench. One fun fact I didn't get into when we were talking about the Steelers here is Ben Roethlisberger is tied with Derek Anderson for most wins ever at Browns Stadium. Big Ben is 10-2. I don't think that changes here for Eli. I think he comes in and adds to the W total for road QBs. I'm not far off on this score with you. Before we get done with this, Terrell Pryor, I'm really liking him again. He's becoming very relevant. 5 receptions, 97 yards. Don't forget this man. Barnridge, he's out on our free agency. He's someone that you can look at grabbing with Josh McCown back up there. He had 2 receptions last week, 23 yards and a touchdown. McCown finds this man. Either way, I have the New York Football Giants 28, the Cleveland Browns 21.
Yeah, that's about right. Browns they don't have it. I feel sorry for Browns fans. And speaking of feeling sorry for fans, well, at least they got the Golden State Warriors, roughly. Niners, Dolphins. Dolphins have won 5 straight. Dolphins win. KC loses. Guess what? Miami's all of a sudden looking a wild card. I never thought I'd say that at the beginning of the year, especially when they started. You got Kaepernick coming in. He's, for the past, since week 6, which is when he started, he's 10th in quarterbacks for fantasy. 10th. I know it's unbelievable, but he makes plays with his legs. But Miami's changed their game. Ever since they went back and started workhorsing Ajayi and being smart with their offense instead of putting it all on the shoulders of Tannehill, who's proven he can't really carry a team that way. They've only got 2 turnovers in their last 5. 9 takeaways on defense. I think slowing it down like that, grinding it out, keeps their defense off the field a little more. They got a great schedule the rest of the way. Ravens, Cards, Jets, Bills, and then ending it with New England. Like Dave was talking about picking up the Miami defense for the stretch run. Well, guess what? Playoff time. You got Jets, Bills, New England. And New England's going to have nothing to play for week 17, so I would be surprised to see Brady playing at that point. I mean, I know Garoppolo played well in his absence, but at the same time, Miami plays New England real tough. Always have. That being said, I think Ajayi gets his. He's going to run wild this game. I think they're going to workhorse him. Again, pushing 30 touches. You got Miami 28, San Francisco 14. And I think they control the game the whole way through.
Some fun facts from last week. I went through the receiving core of the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, boy, that's scary.
Leading them, Vance McDonald. 3 receptions, 46 yards, and a touchdown. Number 2, Drone. 3 receptions, 43 yards, and a touchdown. Oh, you're going to love this one. Still not a receiver. Selleck, 3 receptions, 41 yards.
That's where Selleck went. I was wondering what happened to him after he left the Eagles.
There's 2 of them.
Oh, there's 2 of them?
There's 2 of them. Yeah, there's one on the Eagles as well.
Let's say. Selleck,
it's
I didn't realize
awful
that.
out there for them in the receiving game.
That's
the one
horrible.
thing that they have on their hands is a mobile quarterback in Colin Kaepernick. 16 for 30, 206, 2 TDs, 4 rushes, 32 yards. Carlos Hyde, before a couple weeks he's been out, so I get when you said Colin Kaepernick would have been the leading quarterback rusher when I asked you that question, but Hyde actually went 19 rushes for 86 yards, 3 receptions for 24 yards. I like Devontae Parker more than I like Landry right now.
I agree.
9 times out of 10, I want the number 2 over the number 1 because of the defenders' matchups. J.J. has 16 rushes, 77 yards, 3 receptions, 7 yards. In an upset, I have San Francisco 24, Miami 21.
No. I like the bold prediction, Dave. I
really like
do.
San Francisco's defense against a struggling offensive scoring team of Miami. I mean, last week they were down 10-0 in the 4th. It's the first time that they've scored no points going into the trailing into the 4th and come back and have won. It is the first time they've done that this year. They scored 2 touchdowns. I don't know what happened there. I thought they were completely out of it last week. I want to see them put the ball in J.I.'s hands more control the tempo. I get they had to throw the ball. It's going to be a very interesting game to watch, and I think there's at least 2 defensive scores from which defense I do not know.
Right on.
Oh, and you touched earlier on the playoff run and defenses that you'd want. I know it's hard to stash a D for 6 weeks or so. We're at week 12, not 4 weeks. Week 17, if your playoffs goes that deep, the Steelers play the Browns.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that if you can roster them, in our league that are out there, I can't do it. I can't do it right now. If they're there in a couple weeks, I grab them, but it's a very good thing to touch on.
All right, we got Rams Saints. Who dat? I love Breeze at home. Love them. The Rams defense, I know they're pretty solid, but New Orleans has the number 1 offense in the league. And they threw up 25 on Seattle, 23 on Denver, both at home. And they're averaging over 30 points a game at home. I don't see that changing here. I think, the Saints defense, they have a bad rap. The last 3 games, 9 sacks, 6 takeaways. I think they established that here again. Goff starting, he only completed 54%, averaged 4.3 yards per attempt. The Rams as a team are only putting up 14.9 points a game. I think Gurley gets bottled up again. Saints 35, Rams 10. I think Cooks and Breeze go off. The Hightower Ingram combo is working. And the Rams, they just don't have it.
We touched on it last week. I asked you how you felt about Goff starting. I was completely opposed. I said I didn't see why Case Keenum wasn't continuing to start. I didn't see any better numbers coming this way from Goff. I don't want to see this rookie get tormented by a good defense, say in the up-and-coming weeks. What I predicted happened. 17 for 31, 134 yards, 4 rushes, and 11 yards. Gurley ended up going out and getting himself a touchdown, but he really was bottled up. He really had to earn those 76 yards on the ground that he got. Britt, 5 receptions for 43 yards. Lance Kendricks, probably still my favorite target there. 4 receptions for 38 yards. You know it's who dat. We're down in the bayou. Thomas reemerged as the leading receiver last week, but I'm with you with Cooks. It's Drew Brees at home. He finds Cooks when he's at home. I love that combo. He had 7 receptions for 42 yards. Lance Thomas was 5 receptions on 68 yards. For some reason, every week we throw Coby Fleener out to die under the Tuscan sun. He comes back with 3 receptions for 17 yards and a touchdown. At least it wasn't rushing this week, because God knows that's what he should be doing. I have the Saints winning this game, though, 28-14.
Yes. Bengals-Ravens, divisional battle. Bengals are clawing for the division. I think they're out of it. AJ's out. Gio's out. They say 2 weeks on AJ. We talked about that earlier. I think it's longer. I know the Bengals have won 5 straight against the Ravens. I don't think it's going to happen here. Without AJ to stretch the field, I think they smother Eifert. I think they smother Hill. They held Zeke to 97 yards on 25 carries, which sounds like a lot, but that's pretty impressive once you factor in Zeke's ridiculous standards lately. They do have the top run D in football. Their MVP's Justin Tucker. How can you not like the Ravens? Steve Smith, old, still talking shit, still balling out. I got the Ravens 17, Bengals 7, low-scoring game. Ravens win it their way.
We're pretty close on the score again. We both have Baltimore with 17 points. I do see the Bengals finding a way to get into the end zone. I enjoy a couple of the Bengals defenders. I mean, being a Steelers fan, you got to understand, they have some nasty games, and especially last year from the playoffs. I mean, Number one reason we're not in is dirty hit on Antonio Brown, but we're not going to go there. I respect Pac-Man Jones and what he can do in the pass game. I mean, I think Cincinnati scores a touchdown on defense. I went out and got Terrence West and Jeremy Hill this week, actually, for the long haul. If you look at their stretch of games going down for the playoffs, for fantasy playoffs, you want these 2 workhorses. Last week, Jeremy Hill, 16 rushes, 62 yards, 2 receptions. For a yard, you're not going to see Jeremy Hill not touch the ball 30 times the rest of the year total, whether it's rushing, receiving. He's going to be a complete workhorse. I get the Ravens got a tough defense, but you cannot not start a guy that's going to go out there and have just a tremendous amount of work. Sad about AJ Green. Tyler Eifert, someone we haven't talked about. I really, really, really am infatuated with him now because they have to throw to someone. So
he's all they have to throw
to. This guy in the pass game. I know we talked about Tyler Boyd. I like Eifert in the pass game.
Yep.
I do have this game, Baltimore 17, Cincinnati 16.
I agree. I mean, Eifert, they are going to smother him, but he's still going to get thrown to double-digit attempts. I think he gets double-digit targets. And Eifert staying healthy, that's a question mark itself. Now, we got the tale of two teams, two different records. San Diego coming in 4-6 against the Texans at 6-4. San Diego at 4-6 have outscored their opponents by 14 points. Houston at 6-4 has been outscored by 34 on the year. But Houston's 5-0 at home. I know Brock Osweiler. I know he's flopped. San Diego's coming off the bye. They got the fifth run D in the league. But they've had 10 turnovers in the fourth quarter on this year. They keep finding crazy ways to lose. They blew a 17-point fourth quarter lead against Kansas City. Fumbled twice in 80 seconds against Indy. Missed a field goal against Oakland. Threw 4 picks, including a pick 6 in the fourth quarter against Miami, talking about them coming back against the Rams. They did the same thing against the Chargers. In a game that they shouldn't have won, they found a way to beat them. I think the injuries are starting to mount up on San Diego once again. They got 9 players to start all their games this year. 9 players, offense and defense. That being said, I don't think San Diego is going to have quite enough. I think they're going to blow another close game. Houston 31, San Diego 28. Melvin Gordon's going to get his. Tyrell Williams, look out for this guy. I think Tyrell Williams is going to have a good game against this Houston team. Phillip Rivers still loves to throw the ball. Melvin Gordon is going to get workhorse. They have to. Lamar Miller. I think Lamar Miller, I have him top 10.
Yeah. Absolutely. 24 rushes for 104 yards and a touchdown, 2 receptions and 9 yards last week for Lamar Miller. The thing that I guess struck me to be surprised the most about last week's game was how good the Texans' run defense was. They bottled up Latavius Murray pretty good. I would have liked to see Oakland use Latavius Murray a lot more, not even a little more, but we're not going to go there right now. I don't know. My number one thing is, can Houston stop Melvin Gordon? Melvin Gordon has been on a tear, top 5 running back the rest of the year, and he has been all year. This man has definitely emerged. Keeper leagues, note that he's a very good running back. Don't be afraid to get rid of him if you have time this week to get overpaid. One thing that I'm worried about next year is Danny Woodhead coming back healthy and taking snaps away from Melvin Gordon. But if you want to win now, Melvin Gordon's your man. I have this a very close game. San Diego 26, Houston 24. One thing I do want to reiterate, I posted on our Facebook page, not being a Houston Texans fan, not being a DeAndre Hopkins owner, watching what was done to him this last week makes me want to boycott the NFL. I know we're a fantasy podcast and we have a fantasy sports page, but it was awful. He turned up the field. He ran. He didn't step out of bounds. Would have had I believe it would have been a 35, 45-yard touchdown catch and run. It was sick. That 7 points was huge. That could push overtime. That could mean valuable points for people on a Monday night game that need points from any such player. It's sick, and these refs aren't full-time. They could be doing an NFL game one night, the next night they're doing an NCAA game. Something needs to be done. We need to pay our refs. We need to make them full-time so we can make them be held accountable for these actions. I do believe next year there'll be a rule change.
Hold them to standards.
You're going to be able to challenge every single call. It doesn't matter what it is because of this play. This play is going to be what gets discussed in the off-season meetings.
Not just that. They had, 3rd and 1? He got it. They called him short. 4th and 1, went for it again. Got it again. Yeah. Called him short. Why? Huge Raiders fan base in Mexico City. The refs, I've heard plenty of times that they favored them.
I want to know how good the security is. If someone can keep pointing the laser pointer on the field at the Houston Texans quarterback, Brock Osweiler. I get it's a huge stadium. Those laser pointers can shoot from anywhere. But we're talking about it should be almost the level of national security here at these stadiums. And we're in Mexico. We're talking you need to make sure these players aren't at any risk because those laser pointers that get in are metal. You have to go through the metal detector. You're not getting... So what does that tell you? What else can be brought into the stadium?
I also heard parts of that stadium were sectioned off with barbed wire. So what does that tell you? I mean, even the Raiders, Khalil Mack had said something that with all the green flashing around, he looked like it was the Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
so it's not just Houston that was complaining about it. All right, we got Seattle, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay 5-5, game behind Atlanta. Seattle in control of their division. Tampa Bay is 1-4 at home, 4-1 on the road. I think that trend continues here. Seattle, fewest points given up in the year on D. They're averaging almost 30 a game in the last 3. Pro Slice out. I wonder if they regret cutting Christine Michael now. At least Rawls is back. We'll see if he can stay healthy. I think Rawls, Russell, Graham, they're gonna use the Tampa Bay defense. Jameis, he's got 12 touchdowns, 2 picks the last 6 games, 8th in the league passer rating. I don't see it being enough. Mike Evans, most targeted wide receiver in the NFL. Obviously, you're starting him. He's a stud. That being said, I got Seattle 27, Tampa Bay 17. They don't have quite enough.
I believe it's 26 games in a row career for Jameis Winston. He's thrown a touchdown pass, in every single game. At least one. I agree with you. I really like Doug Baldwin. Yeah, we talked about it last week. He's reemerging as the receiver he was 2 fantasy seasons ago. He was one of the diamonds in the rough that you found in free agency. Thomas Rawls stays healthy. He's going to be a workhorse the rest of the year. We look at Doug Martin last week, 24 rushes, 63 yards. He had 3 receptions and 42 yards. I just really like Seattle right now. I get that Earl Thomas, he's banged up right now. He's going to be out. It's not going to be enough, like you said. I have Seattle winning this game 31-24. Watch out for Russell Wilson because he is on fire right now.
He's starting to recover. I wish he would have, 10 weeks ago so I could have salvaged my 2 QB league. All right. Carolina, Oakland. Oakland, believe it or not, number 1 seed in the AFC. 8-2. Carolina 4-6. They're struggling, trying to sneak into the playoffs. They're 0-5 against 500 or better teams. I don't think this changes here. It's not a trap game for Oakland. They're not going to have Montezuma's revenge from Mexico City Water. I think the 3 C's, Cooper, Crabtree, Carr, it's going to be too much for a Carolina defense that they're 27th in passing yards allowed and tied for 23rd in touchdowns allowed. Cam, Stewart, Olsen, Calvin Benjamin, they will find success against this defense. It's not going to be enough. It's going to be a higher scoring game. I know Carolina's defense has come around, but they just don't have the secondary to compete with this passing game. Latavius Murray, he's not going to matter. I mean, he's going to get points. Don't get me wrong. He's going to get his touches, but it's the passing game that Carolina's not going to be able to stop. Oakland 34, Carolina 30. Be a tight game. Raiders take it.
Yeah, I have this game slightly lower scoring. Cam Newton, he's just been very iffy this year. I really want to see what he can do against Oakland's defense, which is really pushing to be one of the top defenses in the league. If you really look at it, they can pressure the quarterback. They can guard the wide receivers within reason. I don't know. I mean, Jonathan Stewart, 18 rushes, 31 yards, and a touchdown, 1 reception, 8 yards. It just seems like Carolina's getting older and not younger. I'd like to see him really upgrade that running back spot. Michael Crabtree's fallen off the map. 3 receptions, 5 yards. He had at least 3 drops last week. It was pitiful. They were big 3rd down conversions. It was sad to see. Latavius Murray, these are the numbers we've grown to expect from him. 12 rushes, 33 yards, 5 receptions, 59 yards. With all that being said, in Oakland, I have them winning this in a close one, 20-17.
Patriots, Jets, another one of those games. I know the Jets always play them tough. It's not going to matter. Gronk being out, not going to matter. I think they hold Gronk out till the playoffs. I don't think they risk him. Forte, I know he's going to have fresh legs coming off the bye. Not going to matter because Brandon Marshall in that passing game, Marshall's stock slipped completely because his quarterback, either one of them, I know Gino's done, but Fitzpatrick sucks this year. Just put it bluntly.
Bryce Petty wasn't any better.
No, and he wasn't. Gino wasn't in his little brief stint either. Their defense, they got the highest blitz rate the Jets do of 37% on passing plays. But Brady's quarterback rating against the blitz, 124. Yeah, that being said, LeGarrette Blount, they got a stout run D. Again, I don't see him. Dion Lewis, they're not going to just throw him in there and risk him getting hurt just like Gronk. Blunt's going to get the majority of the carries. It's not going to matter. Brady and Edelman, they're going to do their thing. They're going to ball out. If you got Forte, you got to start him. Not enough. New England 24, Jets 14.
Yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, although I do see Dion Lewis having bigger value. I had 5 rushes for 23 yards last week, 3 receptions for 23 yards as well. When he touched the ball, he looked like lightning. I'm very excited to see Dion Lewis and what he can do the rest of the year. Blount, 19 carries for 124 yards. James White did not rush the ball, but he had 6 receptions for 63 yards and a touchdown, so he's not obsolete yet, I guess. I think Edelman is going to have a huge week. I have him in my top 10. 8 receptions, 77 yards, and a touchdown last week. I have New England winning this one easy, 35-10.
Kansas City, Denver. I think this is going to be a revenge game for Kansas City for their loss at Arrowhead to the Bucs last week. They're going to be pissed. They don't like losing at Arrowhead. Like Alex Smith misses Macklin a little bit. Where it can be effective? Denver can be run on. Denver, they're 7-0 when they score 21 points or more. I think they're going to struggle too here. I think Kansas City brings it. Booker's only averaging 3.3 yards per carry in his last 4 games. Simeon has made Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel almost irrelevant. I mean, they're real tough plays, except in a flex spot where you're kind of desperate almost. That being said, they're both 7-3. I see Kansas City taking it, 20, Denver 14.
Yeah, I have this as a pretty close game myself. The one thing that worries me is Kansas City couldn't score last week on Tampa Bay. They only put up 17 points. Denver's defense is a whole nother ball game.
This is true.
I have this game going to Denver. I enjoy Spencer Ware, 17 rushes, 69 yards, 2 receptions, 16 yards. Simeon's starting to find his groove with Emmanuel Sanders during the Oakland game. Again, I'll recap a couple weeks ago. Emmanuel had the ball, dove for it, bounced out of his hands. It seems like they're finally starting to click a little bit down the field. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I can easily see Denver's defense scoring 2 touchdowns here. I'm not going to waste our time with this one either. I have Denver 24, Kansas City 13, Mile High.
We're getting to our game of the week, folks. Packers-Eagles. This is Dave and ours game of the week. We got a lot to talk about on this one.
Let's do our Belichick or boss first. Let's get that out of the way.
We'll save that. I agree.
Part off here. We have a lot to say to a Mr. Tyler Otto, who was on my Facebook page the other day commenting on a status and said that we had nothing but opinions about Mr. Aaron Rodgers, and we're going to set them straight here in a little bit. Our Belichick or bust, I have Jeremy Hill going up against a very tough Ravens run defense. I think he's very boomer bust. And, I'm going to go with Todd Gurley as my second boomer bust here. He's going up against a tough run D. He's been getting bottled up. He doesn't have a very good quarterback. I know you guys are thinking to yourselves, hey, Jeremy Hill's a workhorse. Todd Gurley's Todd Gurley. They're not in a great position this week, so it's not someone that you're going to guarantee get your double-digit points from. PPR feel a little better.
Mine, I got Frank Gore. I think he's going to have a big game. I think Indianapolis is going to workhorse him, try and slow the game down to try and compete with Pittsburgh. Phillip Rivers is my other one. He needs to stop his annual second-half San Diego meltdown. I think he's got the potential for a big game. I really don't think so, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed for him because, like, you don't hate Sam Bradford, I don't hate Phillip Rivers.
I'm going to start this one out because I'm going to let you segue in from your scores in that to go through all your research here. I love what Daryl did here. I can't take any credit for it. He really did his homework, and he's definitely gonna set the story straight here. Anyways, Aaron Rodgers last week was 26 for 41, 351 yards, 3 TDs, 3 rushes, 33 yards, and a fumble. I don't hate it. Starks, 9 rushes, 25 yards, 5 receptions, 46 yards, and a touchdown. We touched on this, Daryl. We want to see this team use Montgomery out of the backfield. I look at Montgomery and watching the game, he seemed to be more effective. 4 rushes on 17 yards. But that's only, what's that? It's over almost 5 yards a rush.
Yep.
I mean, give him the ball as much as other players, and you can run your 5-wide set, run out of the shotgun. You have a great line. I mean, I want to see them do this. I'm going to talk about Philly super quick here. Zach Ertz is not even slowly, surely becoming one of my favorite tight ends here. 6 receptions, 35 yards, and a touchdown. Those are great numbers when you're talking about a shaky tight end spot this year. Jordan Matthews on a very bad Packers defense. I see him having a good game. He had 5 receptions for 59 yards last week. We're going to update about the running backs. Don't worry about that. I don't see Green Bay pulling this out. I have Philadelphia 28, Green Bay 17. Mr. Darrell, take the floor.
All right. Here's the biggest problem with the Packers. Touching on the misuse of Ty Montgomery, they misused Eddie Lacy as well. Jeremy, you're a Packers fan. You think Lacy should have been getting 20 carries a game. But here's Mike McCarthy, and I quote him. There's no reinventing the wheel. We've talked about this since the day I arrived here. We have a system of football that accommodates any player on our roster. If we've got to reinvent the wheel in week 11 or 12, we haven't set our plan the right way. Okay, well, maybe your players aren't fitting your system, and instead of trying to fit the square peg in a round hole, adapt it. But hey, relax, Packer fans. You got Aaron Rodgers, right? 2-time MVP, right? Well, guess what? We've starting to see the downfall of Aaron Rodgers. He's turned into a mediocre quarterback. 14 straight games with less than 100 passer rating at one point? What do you think about that? He seems to have lost his confidence. Jordy coming back hasn't resurrected it. Hasn't been the same since week 7 of last year when the Packers, 3 points favorites, lost in Denver 29-10, and A-Rod threw for 77 yards. Since then, mediocre. He's got a great line. He gets all day to throw. We've seen games where he gets 4, 5, 6 seconds. Last year, his mediocrity was obscured by the Hail Marys he threw. The 61-yarder Richard Rodgers in Detroit. The 41-yarder to Janis in Arizona. Everybody sees that and forgets all the other part of it. Part of the blame's Mike McCarthy. It is. He's a staple for ISO routes. There's no bunches, rubs, pick plays like other teams tend around to get people open. Why? Because it's our system and we've been doing it for 10 or 11 years. Well, you know what the problem with that is? Teams can read that. Aaron Rodgers and his hard count don't get people to jump anymore with the free plays. That's starting to change. Let's look at some numbers for Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. A month ago, he was in some really elite company with Johnny Manziel. A-Rod, 6.1 yards per attempt. Manziel, 6.2. 58% completion for A-Rod, 58 for Manziel. 62 QBR for A-Rod, 60 for Manziel. Not what you want to see. Final 10 games of 2015, 6 yards per attempt, 81.9 passer rating, 57% completion. 56% in the playoffs, 5.9 in the playoffs. You know what? McCarthy can't pass the blame. He's got all the play calling responsibility here. The guy, last 12 starts coming into the Bears game, Hoyer, 6-6 record, A-Rod 7-5, 63% completion percentage for Hoyer, 58 for A-Rod, 262 yards per game for Hoyer, 226 for A-Rod, 20-5 touchdown interception ratio for Hoyer, 29 for A-Rod, 94 passer rating for Hoyer, 83.3 for A-Rod out of their last 12 starts. How's that sound for elite company? You're looking at Manziel, Hoyer. As of right now, Packers are A-Rod's 13th in passer rating. You got your normals you'd think of up there, but I don't know, Mariota, Sam Bradford, Dak, Stafford, all higher than him. ESPN, this is from ESPN. A-Rod has underthrown or overthrown a pass on 24% of his pass attempts this year. Their whole offense is struggling as a result. He's 13th in passer rating. Green Bay's 13th overall in offense. They're averaging 5.5 yards per play, 16th in the league. 6.7 yards per passing attempt, 25th in the league. That's on A-Rod. 41.7 pass attempts per game. He's getting his targets. He's getting his throws. Longest pass play of 58 yards, tied for 25th. They can't go deep downfield anymore. 40-plus yards, they have 6 on the year. 20th in the league. 20-plus yard passing plays, 31 of them. 18th in the league. The numbers aren't there. He's got the same, coming into Carson Wentz here in the Eagles, he's got the same completion percentage as Carson Wentz on the year. A rookie.
You know whose fault that sounds like?
A rookie.
The defense.
That's all the defense.
I hear is it's the Packers' defense.
Hey, you want to hear about ex-Packers that played with A-Rod? Jermichael Finley and Greg Jennings both called him out for not being a leader. I think he needs to do something besides just throw his arms up in disgust and look for a flag when you just overthrew or underthrew your receivers. They're saying he doesn't give his cell number out to teammates. Jermichael Finley actually had a lot of bad things to say about him, that He thought A-Rod was all about his own game and stats. He kept everything in, held grudges, wasn't put on earth to lead. This is coming from Jermichael Finley, that he's too scared of what the guys will say that he doesn't want to get vocal. Doesn't want to hang out with the guys. Completely self-centered. Maybe that's why he fell so far in the draft. Maybe that's why San Francisco decided to take the flyer on Alex Smith. He's arrogant and prideful coming from him. Another Packers source, no explanation for him playing worse. People are trying to figure it out. He's an effing head case. He knows he's doing the wrong thing, but he's so arrogant and prideful that he thinks he can separate his personal and professional life. He won't make the adjustments. He's come out in an interview with Peter King saying that, hey, you know, when my footwork's not right, my passes aren't as accurate. You know what you're doing wrong. You won't change it. This guy is not the player he used to be. Either McCarthy needs to adapt his offense, A-Rod needs to get his head out of his ass, whatever it is. The physical ability's there. It's not anymore.
The big problem is you're in small town Green Bay, Wisconsin here, and you have X amount percent of the fans that are like, woo, Packers, go A-Rod, go. They don't know anything about anyone else. Now, if you put them in a big market, you put them in LA where they have Malta or California.
They'd been calling for his head last year already.
Here you go, you know, but we cannot upset Aaron Rodgers. We need him.
No,
he's the golden.
He's God's gift.
No, it's time to move on. It's time to look for the future.
Now, here's the problem. We talked about it last week. Redskins must-win game. Packers, they're almost out of the playoffs because either Minnesota or Detroit are going to win. They're playing themselves this week. Packers in Philly. Philly's lost 5 of their last 7, but they're undefeated at home. They're averaging 27 points per game on offense, only giving up 9.5. I think it changes here. Green Bay will put up 17 points because the Packers D too. Packers D, they're dominant at giving up touchdowns. I mean, they're giving up 153 points in the last 4 games. So that part I get isn't on A-Rod. You can't stop that.
Right.
Doesn't matter. They still put up 17 points, but guess what? Philly puts up 35. Philly 35, Packers 17. The only cheese here is going on a cheesesteak.
What's awesome is we don't even talk about this, and I didn't know any of the stats about what was allowed for scoring and such, and I had Green Bay 17, Philly 28. I mean, I feel confident about this score too. I think Philly puts the icing on the cake this week by beating Green Bay. I just want to say, Mr. Tyler Otto, if you have anything to say, feel free to like the page and comment on the page. We'll definitely have a friendly debate about this, but I don't think any of this is opinionated.
Oh, and Mr. Otto, I can actually give you sources later if you want them. You got questions, email us. I'll get you there. But hey, Packer fans, don't worry. A-Rod thinks they can win out. They got 2 tough bird defenses. Eagles, they got Seattle coming up. Well,
it's definitely a good week. Make sure to pour in your questions, emails. You know, let us know what you need. Obviously, in most leagues, the trade deadline is already up. If you do have any trade advice or need any advice, you know, let us know. If you just want to spark a conversation about sports, hit us up. We're here.
Thanks for listening. Have a great Turkey Day, and may the fantasy gods be with you. Gryffindor!